This is a very different type of instrument. Does it replace a real katsugi? Well, of course. Hi, I'm Marcus and I play the shakuhachi and I play taiko. Maybe you've seen my unboxing video of this instrument here, the TAIKO-1, the Roland TAIKO-1. And I wanted to follow up the unboxing video by a video that is a bit more about the instrument itself. So here I want to give you my first impressions, explain a bit about how the instrument works in general, and then I'll just play through the factory sounds, because I think the sounds that come with the instrument are actually one of the very strong points about it. Okay, but before I dive into this video, I just wanted to quickly explain a bit why this instrument is interesting for me. So I mentioned I'm playing taiko. I've been playing taiko for about 12 years now. I'm with the Mugen Taiko Dojo in Scotland, and I've been playing with Mugenkyo for about 8 years now. For those who do not know Mugenkyo, we do some tours in the UK every year. We're, at the moment at least, the only touring taiko group in all of Europe. I'll link a video here so you can see Mugenkyo in action. So I come to this instrument from the taiko side, not so much from the drumming side. I mean, taiko of course is drumming. I just meant I'm not a kit drummer, so I come to this from the taiko side. But I also should point out that katsugi, so this type of instrument, this type of taiko drum that we have here, has never really been my focus. But still, all these features that the instrument has really make it very interesting for me. You may also have noticed that I not only play flute and drums, but I also am interested in electronics or electronic music. So bringing taiko and the electronics together is what makes this very interesting for me. In addition to that, having an electronic instrument also means you can play it with headphones. And if you're a taiko player, you will be very aware of the main problem when playing taiko, which is the noise, right? So it's always difficult to find a rehearsal space. And for practicing at home, in particular in times during Corona, when I can't go to the dojo to do my practice, this really is very interesting, because I can just put on headphones and I don't bother anybody really. Okay, before I dive into the actual video, I just wanted to mention two things really quickly. One is that I may be alternating between katsugi and okedo. So this type of drum, well, I mean, at least the acoustic version of this, the form, the shape is an okedo, which just means barrel-bodied drum. But if you use it to carry it over your shoulder and to be able to walk around with it, you usually call it a katsugi, a carrying drum. Both mean the same thing, basically, but anyway, just in case you might be confused if I use these terms interchangeably. The other is that in my unboxing video, which I think I mentioned in the video itself, I made quite late on the day, I actually inserted the controller the other way around, so the display should go on the outside, not the inside as I had it. But I really was just thinking of stage use, because having a screen anywhere near where you hit with the bachi, that sort of felt a bit strange to me at first. But I think it's actually quite safe, because, well, you're hitting the drum from this side and the display is quite far tucked away. So I think it's okay having it this way around, just in case you see this in the other video. So my first impressions. This drum is really well built. It's sturdy. I really think this can withstand touring life, stage use. It's not fragile in any way. I don't have too much experience with electronic kit drums and things like that. They always seem quite fragile to me. So it's really nice to see that the head is actually really sturdy. So this is made from a mesh. And so this is the more durable version of drum pads. And I think this will be okay for taiko use and giving it a good bashing. But even the manual says don't overdo it. So don't use really heavy bachi, don't use very hard bachi, but just the normal katsugi bachi, which are usually of a softer wood anyway, they will be fine on this katsugi. Also, to actually get the loudest sound from this drum, you have to use quite a bit of force. So we have to play it like a proper taiko drum. You cannot just tap it gently to get the maximum velocity out of this instrument. As I said, I don't have access to the dojo at the moment, so I could not really get a proper okido strap or a proper katsugi strap. So I used this bass drum strap, which works quite well, and I found some old shoelaces. So this is a bit improvised at the moment, but this works quite well. Plus this is padded very nicely, or most of the katsugi straps are just a piece of cloth, and so it's nice to have this extra padding here. At first I actually thought this TAIKO-1 is a bit heavy, but the official weight is 4.5 kilograms, which is pretty much the same as with any katsugi drum. And so I think it's really just that after 1 year of not really playing taiko properly and being on the road, I got a bit more squeamish when it comes to the weight of taiko. The sound quality is really, really good, I must say. I was a bit skeptical at first, to be honest, when it comes to the sound quality of this, because if you're a taiko player, you know that the big thing about taiko is the drums, is the reverberations, is the bodily feeling that you get from playing as well. Of course, you cannot get this with an electronic drum. So I thought, well, then the sound quality might not be the same as playing taiko anyway, and then is it worth it? But the sound quality is really, really good. In particular, if you're playing it with headphones. Obviously, I could not try it with the PA system so far, but if you play it with headphones, this is really good. And it's also very obvious that the sounds were recorded with Kodo, so you really get the original Kodo sound. So if you ever wanted to play it with Kodo, this is your chance, because if you hit the drum, it sounds exactly on their recordings, like on their CDs, like in their concerts. So that's really great. One of the things that I find a bit difficult, at least so far, but this might also just be because I've just been using it at home, is that if you hit the rim, you cannot really distinguish the sound that the drum makes, that the drum generates, from the acoustic sounds. So if you play this with headphones, which I think is definitely preferable, in particular in a domestic setting, it's probably better if you have closed headphones. So at first I was using phones like this, where the pads are open, and so sound can go in and out. And this is a bit problematic with playing the rim, with playing the car sounds. So yeah, you should see that you get closed headphones, or earbuds probably will do the same trick, at least if they seal the ear properly. And the final bit that I want to mention is that the rods that connect the two pads, they of course have to be quite hard. I'm not sure, it's definitely some form of metal that they've used, and this is also contributing to the overall weight of the drum. I must say, I do find this a bit uncomfortable playing katsugi standing up, but this is just a general gripe I have about playing katsugi in the first place. It always hurts a bit on the legs. So this is an electronic drum, obviously, and this means it's a MIDI drum. You have two MIDI pads here, and I think it probably makes sense, if for those who are not so familiar with MIDI or music production, electronic music, that I explain a bit about how MIDI works. Basically, you can produce 4 different notes with this drum, hitting the head and hitting the rim, and then hitting the other head or hitting the other rim. So these are the 4 MIDI notes that you can produce with this. Let me just quickly move over to the desk and explain a bit how MIDI works, in particular in combination with this taiko. Okay, so I'm at my desk here now. Here's my screen. There are mainly 2 things that are important about MIDI in this context of the TAIKO-1. One is that you identify each note by a number, and you identify the loudness or the force of a drum by a second number. Both of these numbers go from 0 to 127. And here, for example, if you view this on a piano keyboard, this goes like this first note has the number 0, this note has the number 1, this note has the number 2, this note has the number 3, and so on, until you get to the highest note here. Okay, so this is the first number. The second number is on the y-axis, right? If you consider this the x-axis, the MIDI note, the number that identifies the note, the pitch, then the number identifying the loudness or the force with which you hit the taiko, which we will get to in a second. This is the second dimension. This is on the y-axis. So as I just showed, there are 4 notes that you can play with the TAIKO-1. and that's these 4 notes here. Pad 1 on the head generates note number 38. If you play it on the rim, it generates number 40. Okay, other head 48 and 50. Translated to pitches, this means that hitting the head generates this note here, D1. If I take a budgie and I hit the drum, you can see that this note is highlighted, okay, when I hit the drum. When I hit the rim, it's E1, the note just above that. The main reason why I'm diving into this MIDI stuff is that if you play with different velocities, so with different force on the drums, it just not only means that the sound will be played louder or quieter, it also means that a different sample will be played. Okay, so let me demonstrate this. I just have some pretty random files here. Okay, so this is the first one. And okay, so let me just play this at the moment. So if I play this, okay, you hear the sound. And regardless of how hard I hit, because there's only this one sample here, it's always the same sample. Okay, so it doesn't matter how hard I hit the drum. But there is something you can do, which is that you put multiple files, multiple samples on the same note. Okay, so I'm going to just use 3 random ones here. Okay, so if I hit the drum very quietly, it plays the first sample, the lowest sample, the one with the lowest velocity. Then if I have a medium strength, it plays the one in the middle. And if I play with high strength, it plays the top one. Okay, and I could do the same with the rim, but let me just put this one sample on here for all the velocities. So if I hit the rim, this note will be played. If I hit the head, this note will be played. If I hit stronger, that note will be played. But on the rim, doesn't matter how hard I hit it. It's always just the same sample. Okay, why am I talking about this? The TAIKO-1 actually has some quite sophisticated MIDI, and in particular in some of the factory sounds, it actually changes between the samples. So the quiet sample, the sample that is played for a quiet hit, is a different one than one for a strong hit. Okay, I just had to connect the Taiko audio to my computer. There are actually 2 outputs on the TAIKO-1. One you can just connect to an amplifier directly. This is an unbalanced output. The other one is a headphone output. That's a stereo output or a balanced output. And just for the record, I connected the headphone output to my computer. What I wanted to demonstrate is if you're using preset 36, which is kakegoe, which is called kakegoe, so shouting, and you hit the rim, then you can see that different samples are being played. So if I hit very softly, you just hear the rim. If I hit a bit stronger, you hear the rim plus some voice. And if I hit stronger, then you hear different voices. Right? So just for the purpose, appropriately for a performance, right? So just very quiet. Some kakegoe. And really loud kakegoe. Yeah! Right. So I just wanted to point this out because, as I say, the MIDI in the TAIKO-1 is quite sophisticated. I've actually not explored it all so far, but I really like this, that depending on how you play the drum, it's not that just one sound is being played louder or quieter, but you actually have different sounds that are being played. So this makes for a much more natural playing. The other thing I wanted to mention about the MIDI of the TAIKO-1 is that the location on which you hit the head is actually sent as MIDI data as well. And depending on where you hit the drum, this actually does make a different sound as well. So different samples and a mix of different samples is used, so that when you hit the center of the drum, you get a different sound than when you play closer to the rim. And this, of course, is much closer to playing a real taiko. So I have this program here, MIDI monitor. This really just spits out numbers depending on what I hit on the taiko. This is sent as MIDI data to the computer. So if I hit the center, then you can see that I get these 4 messages here. The first one says D1, the note is on, and then the note is turned off. Okay, so that's pretty normal. The other thing is that there is a value that is encoded here. So the TAIKO-1 by default uses MIDI channel 10, and then you have this data package here. The 16 is just an identifier, and then here this is the interesting number, 33. Okay, so I fit pretty close to the center, and depending on where you hit the head, in the center this value is 0. If you hit close to the rim, this value is 127. Okay, so let's see. I hit the center of the drum. As you can see, 9. Okay, so I was pretty close to the center. Not spot on, but pretty close. If I hit close to the rim, as you can see, this value here, channel 10, identifier 16, 127. So this note is played close to the rim. And by having this data as well, the sound module that is in the drum computes different sounds that it plays on the audio output. Okay, I'm quickly now going to play through all the 50 presets that come with the TAIKO-1, all the factory sounds that are installed on the device itself. I put it here on this little table so it's a bit better to film. I'm using the headphone output. This is a balanced output, a stereo output. As I said, this is a bit better for the sound quality. For this purpose, it's connected to the power. I'm using the power supply, although it works really fine with the batteries as well. And then there is the MIDI connection, which I still have left in, which I will be using for this demonstration. Starting with preset number 1, Katsugi 1. Here is the number, as you can see. Okay, these are the sounds. The sounds that I was just playing, those are directly coming from the taiko, so I'm not recording them via microphone. These go directly into the computer, so that's why you hear the rim shots really clearly now. Okay, so I'm going to be a bit quicker about the other ones, but this Katsugi sound is actually really nice. And as you can also see, for the different heads, you have different sounds, so the lower side is actually a bit lower as well. Okay, preset number 2. As you can also hear, when I'm switching the preset, the reverb from the previous sound is still fading out, which is also a very nice touch, I think, because in a performance situation, this means that you can play the ending of the sound and let it ring out while changing to something else and then continuing with the performance. So very nice. Uchiwa kit. Space taiko. I think I really like this one. Yeah, this is a proper MIDI instrument, right? This sound doesn't have to do anything with taiko, just an electronic drum. So here's the kakegurui setting I mentioned earlier. Okay, so that's it. I hope you found this useful. The presets are really nice. Of course, you can add your own samples to this drum. In the coming months, I'm sure there's a lot more to explore for me. Yeah, the pads, I think they play really nice. I said earlier, they feel quite sturdy. But yeah, playing on them is pretty close to a real taiko skin. So this is really nice quality. The buttons on the controller, on the sound module, they are quite nice. They are quite big. And they're illuminated. So again, very well suited for stage use, which is of course what this is made for. Yeah, buttons easy to hit, good response. Yeah, overall, this is really great. Sound quality is really nice. Does it replace a real katsugi? Well, of course it doesn't. This is a very different type of instrument. A real katsugi, an acoustic katsugi, feels very different. It's also, I mentioned this earlier, playing taiko is not just about the playing and the beats and the music, but it's also about this visceral feeling, about really feeling the drums in your body. And if you just play it with headphones or just as I did just now, just via some small speakers, there is nothing of that. So yeah, it's not a real taiko drum in that sense. It has many advantages as well, of course. You can practice with your headphones, right? So you eliminate the noise problem. You have an infinite number of sounds. Yeah, you can play different velocities depending on where you hit on the pad. It does make different sounds. I didn't do that in my demonstration, but you can really make different sounds. So it's a nice instrument complementing a real taiko set. And I'm sure in a show as part of that, you can do really many very interesting things with it. But yeah. It doesn't have to be a taiko in order to be a good instrument, but yeah, the acoustic taikos are great. So yeah, I'll leave this question open. Or yeah, let me think what you think about this. Please leave a comment down in the comment section. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel. Please hit the notification bell to be informed when I release a new video. Please like this video as well if you liked it. And yeah, I hope to see you soon in one of my next videos.